All right. Really excited to talk with you, Josh, today. I think, met on LinkedIn. So for anyone that is kind of tuning in from LinkedIn, I think we're also streaming out to Twitter, which I will forever call Twitter. Um, yeah, so Josh, quick intro, like who are you and what have you been building?
Yeah, man. So I am founder of StackedGTM. So StackedGTM is a media publication that a bunch of folks in go-to-market read, right? To understand things like AEO, like how to just build, right? In this new world that we live in, which we'll go deeper on that for sure. And I've been working with some really cool brands, right? Like brands like Lovable, brands like Profound. And it's just been so interesting to move from like operator seat in-house to like actually building my own thing and understanding landscapes of all of these clients that I'm building with. Prior to that, I was VP of growth at Webflow. So I led this like centralized global growth function, tasked with just driving new business for Webflow. And before that, I was VP of growth and product marketing at Affirm, the buy now, pay later company. So took them through to IPO, right? And I supported their consumer business and their B2B business. So very different marketing environments across Affirm and Webflow. And yeah, like it's been really, really interesting to just step out and start doing my own thing.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be able to talk with you. I remember it was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, or maybe a little bit longer than that. And there was just so much that you were kind of posting on LinkedIn, and like as this whole and kind of I think shift has been happening on like what it means to build the next web.
Yep.
The stuff that you were talking about, a lot of these conversations were just I think eye-opening for a lot of people, myself included. And so it's been great to get to know you there, and then also just like hang out with you from time to time in the digital space.
Yeah,
Look forward to doing that in person and not too long. We'll figure that out later.
100%.
Um, but
It's
bef-
it's
Go for
interesting.
it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's interesting, right? Like I've always been. We've chatted about this historically a little bit, but I've always been like really hesitant to be voice in the market. And if I think about like my career progression, like I started my career early on in marketing operations, right? So I was in Marketo, I was in Pardot, like I was in these marketing automation systems building. And like I'm actually like really grateful for that foundation because like I'm not intimidated by these tools. And if you're able to like map tools to like business acumen and how to actually like grow a business, you become a powerhouse of a leader, of an employee, right? And I think we live in a world where like that just seeded, right? Like what I am doing now, which is just building all of the time, just at like a different scale, which is really, really, really fascinating. So yeah, like the LinkedIn content and stuff, I've always been hesitant to be a voice in market because I have this identity that's like, oh, like those guys, like it's fluffy,
Yeah.
like it's not actionable. Um, and then at the same time, like I'm building really cool things and I'm watching my team build really cool things that are pushing the business forward.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. I'm like, back in like the Marketo early days, there was like the Marketo forum, and like we would all just share ideas in the wild, right?
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
all us was talking back and forth, going through different market automation flows, how to clean your database. Like it was learning in real time.
Mm.
And then I was thinking about like the current state of things. Like there are some companies for sure that like build these really passionate communities, right?
Mhm.
But like a lot of people are just having jam sessions with or thought partner sessions with like ChatGPT and Claude
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
actually losing some of that human element, which is like one part powerful and one part kind of depressing. So I'm like, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like start exposing everything that I'm building, the
Mm.
learnings, the good, the bad, etc. And it's cool, man, because I've met so many people, right,
Yeah.
through this, and I have people that come to me being like, especially founders, are like, "I built my go-to-market practice based off of your
Mm.
content," or, "I created a Claude skill based off of all your content," or whatever it might be,
Mm.
and it's really, really, really powerful. So, like, I feel I'm working more than I ever have, truly, but, like, I feel really, really, really energized, and I'm really trying to push this thing forward of, like, let's build in public, like, a lot of people are doing cool things. A lot of people are also feel like they're behind the ball, but they're not. Like, no question's a dumb question. Like, let's just all start to build more together, right? Maybe that's like idealistic, but I'm quite quite passionate about it. This would be it wouldn't be a fun live stream unless there was
I
a
know, unless there was something that was like all of a sudden not working.
yeah,
Um, but catch me back up. We were just talking about kind of you getting started,
yeah,
deciding, and I think the thing that I was going to add to that is, yeah, the whole idea behind this podcast of, building for the next web comes from, I think, the disruption that has happened within the community, right? So I think there's this idea of, Marshall McLuhan had said, like, first we shape our tools and then our tools shape us. And
sure,
so there was a lot of community that was built up around tooling,
yeah,
and whether it be sort of the Webflow community or the Airtable community, or like all these different, and those tools have changed, and all of a sudden, like, there's so many new ways to build. And one of my questions is like, awesome, how are we all building? What can we rally around?
yeah,
And I think that, even having a live stream and being able to get a lot of this stuff out of the comments, that's the other thing, is like a lot of this stuff, it's almost like inhuman, where you don't get to, there's some in maybe tone that gets lost in comments.
sure.
So yeah, and I appreciate you jumping on. And I think if I was to, tell on you a little bit, I mean, you haven't done a whole lot of podcast or like live streams, right?
I've done a few, but
Okay.
yeah, like pretty new to it overall.
It's not like, I mean, even for me, like, I'm just trying to build the muscle.
Yeah,
So
100%. I get invited all the time, and I'm always like, I don't know what I'm gonna be doing that day. I need to
yeah,
be more intentional about them for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
well, thanks for jumping on. Let's get into a bit more around, like, what are the types that you listed off some of the companies that you're working with. What do you see as sort of special about this? Some of these new groups that you're working with.
Yeah, it's a good question. So let me walk you through like how I'm working with companies, just
Yeah.
like picture there. So with Stacked, right? One part of that is just like brand sponsorship. So effectively, like I'll write industry first thought leadership
Mm,
that I have like some criteria. Like it needs to be actually helpful for the user. It needs to be tactical. So like when someone reads it, they can quite literally like read it, take it, implement it.
mm,
And with this, like there are brands that want to tap into, thousands of go-to-market operators. So I'm effectively just like a voice of their brand. There's also like the advisory element of it. So like I'm taking on selective advisory clients, just like keep those muscles built for
yeah.
sure. And the cool part is like they do feed each other, right? So
Yeah.
the more work I do with advisory, the more I see what's working now, not just like embedded in a single company, but
Yeah.
across this like portfolio of companies,
Mm,
right? So then I'm able to like go write content about it. And it just becomes this like really, really efficient flywheel
mm,
of learnings, right? Of things that
yep.
work, things that did not work.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like that sheer premise of building in the wild.
Yeah.
Um, and I go back to that comment around like there used to be communities or there it seemed like there were more communities historically. And I think there's also a point of causation there where it's like if you were to ask me like the perfect marketing tech stack like 5 years ago,
Mm,
right? I'd be like, use demand base, use
mm,
Marketo,
mm,
use Webflow for CMS. You might need a CDP.
mm,
Zapier can integrate all your tools. Like
yep.
there were like these like tools that people would buy and people would rally around the logo, right? And like
Mm,
you create a community this way. With AI and with people building in Claude code and building all these custom workflows, like it's 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 inherently more distributed. So there's not like a
yep.
logo to gather around either,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's like you have AI that you're always going back and forth with from like a ideation perspective, but you also have like decentralized tech,
Yeah.
which isn't inherently bad, but there's no just like prescriptive tech stack from a marketing perspective that a good advisor, a good consultant can go into an org with and be like, this is what you need to run to achieve this. It really does like force a good operator to think like, what are they trying to achieve? And then the judgment layer is, do I buy this tool or do
Hmm.
I build this tool? And then obviously just doing like the full trade-off exercise there.
Yeah. And I think this expansion that you talk about is a direct reflection. It's a tool expansion, but it's a direct reflection, I think, on the aperture of the web,
Sure.
kind of getting wider and wider and wider. And what we're seeing is like we're incorporating more tools, but we're also going a lot deeper on, on Webflow, on Profound, on, like, we're just like each one of these, it's almost like as soon as we open that door,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, we're like, okay, well, how does this relate now to PR, right? And then how are we
Right.
tracking things that we've never done before, like share of voice, like
Totally.
and that's like an old school kind of metric, right? I mean, that was
100%.
early 2000s. People were talking about share of voice, and then that got amplified a little bit in social and things like that.
100%.
Um, but now it's like we're actually tracking that as a, and then kind of like making that correlation
Yep.
to, okay, well, what type of lead volume and quality can
Sure.
we see
Sure.
from that? And so it's I think the disruption as it relates to these communities comes down to not like necessarily just like, again, we are expanding our Webflow team. Like we're doing more and more in every one of these tools, but there is just so many tools that we're working on. And so I think that's something that is so valuable to what you're exploring, which is how do all these tools stack together and what is the right combination? Because it is a puzzle to be able to
It
get to the reality, right?
it's a beast. It's definitely a beast, right? And
Yeah.
I think, like, the common thread between both, like, clients that I take on and just conversations I have with CEOs or
Yep.
CMOs, um, they they're almost predictable at this point,
Okay.
where it's like, "Hey, I'm not showing up in LLM output,"
Yep.
right? "I need an AEO strategy." And then the next layer of that conversation is typically my SEO guy isn't doing his job.
Mm.
And, like, I get, like, a I don't know, like, I get, like, a anxious pit in my stomach because 'cause I'm like, "It's not that guy's fault." Like
Yep.
like, he owns a part of it, but if you think about, like, a holistic AEO strategy, it is how you show up in market across the board. It's how you show up in PR. It's how you show up in Reddit. It's how you show
Yep.
up in YouTube. It's how customers are talking about you. It's how competitors are talking about you. Like, there's just it's so, so, so broad. So, when I think about, like, approaching an AEO strategy even, right? Like, the first thing I do is just, like, an education piece where I'm like,
Mm.
"Hey, like, this is not this guy or gal's fault at all, right? Like, this is not how this goes." And then the ultimate output, like, after you do, like, a deep analysis is a roadmap of, like, short, medium, long term that's versioned by marketing function, right?
Mm.
The interesting part is, like, if you look at that final roadmap, the owners, right, who's actually responsible for, like, each project, usually it's more often than not the SEO person,
Yeah.
right?
Ye
But they're tasked with it.
Yep.
It's really, really, really fascinating. I feel for everyone that's
Yep.
sitting in, like an SEO position that's getting
Mm.
pressure from their leaders, or, the boards or whatever it might be. And I think that, like, on the other side of that, I'll work with folks that are in these roles, and I'm like, how to make yourself look like a rock star in your role right now is actually take this, like, as cliche as it sounds, like, tiger team approach, where, like,
Mm.
you might be, like, the single owner of the actual output, but, like, you can rally the team,
Yeah.
and you can attack the roadmap, and you can almost, like, project manage it, right?
Mm.
In a way where, like, yeah, it does impact numbers longer term as the team holistically executes on it. So it's like a new muscle that a lot of these
Yep.
folks need to stretch right now.
Yeah, and even some of our work is really shifting. So on the agency side, I
Yep,
mean, we're growing, but we're growing not just in projects,
yep,
but in programs. And I think that's one of the big shifts there is that our job becomes how do we coordinate and help all these different groups get credit,
sure,
and have more impact. And I think what you were talking about there around like it's not just like the SEO person's fault.
yep,
There are fundamentals that have to happen in SEO at the same time. Like a lot of that, like there is a flip between kind of keyword focus and then topic. And like one
totally,
is go really wide around keywords, and then one is like go really deep around topics and have offsite sort of like activities that you're doing. We were pulling a report for a VC, and something that I saw was that Sequoia had a massive spike in their like sort of AEO juice, like so like their
yep,
visibility, performance, all this stuff.
sure,
It was because they had just had a huge event, so an in-person event, and it was a bunch of people that were talking about Sequoia, and that gets into this earlier idea of like you had said it's about marketing fundamentals
Yep.
and then how those get operationalized into this new sort of like AI thing. So I
I
think that's one of the things that's really, I think making all marketers more honest.
I think that's right. So it's interesting. Like I think back early in my career, like early SEO days, I used to work with this gentleman by the name of Chris Allen, and
Okay.
he used to lead this like weekly session called Digital Word of Mouth.
Mm,
Right. Like I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. And the premise of it is like, how do you just ensure that the whole digital world is talking about you?
mm,
Right. Across social media platforms, across
yep.
like Reddit, across community forums, et cetera, et cetera. And if you think about like, and he led SEO over there, he at the time, right? And if you think about what AEO is like, it's the same thing. You just need to understand like the weighting and like where to invest time where.
Yep.
But to your point, like it goes back to yes, the fundamentals of marketing. It's making a splash, it's cutting through the noise, and then it's making sure your distribution is wide enough across all of these different marketing channels in a way where the benefit of that is just good AEO, right?
Yep.
So I'm not downplaying how hard it is because, like, for sure, like it is hard to gain citations. It's hard to
Yep.
create and execute on a good AEO strategy. Um, but I will say, like, good AEO is good marketing,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
the ownership. If I was to say, hey, who owns AEO? It's a CMO, right?
Mm,
Which is quite fascinating, right? Like that is the mindset.
wow. Yeah. And I think that is a huge shift.
Totally,
And, the CMOs generally are like, oh, well, that's sort of lower level, like lower tier.
it's
But it is the culmination of all those activities, both low tier and high tier, that make the impact.
100%, 100%.
I,
And again, like approaching this work, that's why, like, my first recommendation is typically, "Hey, like, this is the roadmap. This sits
mm,
across product marketing, this sits across brand, this sits across growth, this sits across all these sub-functions." I'm like, "This is actually really, like, CMO that I'm working with, how you should do your
mm,
job," right? And, like, sometimes the project management element is delegated, again, to, like, those SEO
yeah.
folks, et cetera.
Yep.
Um, but if the team is performant and producing across all sub-functions, you will see benefit in LLM output recommending you, period.
So I was on a conversation maybe a month or two ago, and the topic came up like, what are, you know, what are the easy things that people can do around AEO? And I might flip this because I was like, I don't know, like it's basically what we were just talking about, like these sort
Yeah,
of big, broad, like, marketing things.
yeah,
Let's flip this and say, what are the myths that people should avoid? Because I see some like listicles and lying, and I see like,
totally.
yeah. So what are the things that should be avoided?
Oh, man, there's so many of them. Reddit stands out, right? Like, people are still trying to just, like, spam the shit
Mm,
out of Reddit right now, just because they believe that, like, that's how you increase citation share. And then that kind of morphed to, like, YouTube, and YouTube transcripts have gained, they're being cited more.
okay.
So we were seeing that same game play out in YouTube, where it's like just trying to like create a whole bunch of YouTube videos that are like subpar to try to like hack the system. It doesn't work, right?
Mm,
Um, you're also seeing like this rise in influencers and B2B influencers, and like
mm,
some of it's really good and some of it's like really garbage.
okay.
So I think like when I think about like qualification of an influencer, like you really actually need to do your deep research around
Mm,
their audience, their engagement. Are they already getting cited? And then like you can make a strategic investment there for sure. But I'm seeing a lot of folks try to effectively just like buy their way into third party citations, third party mentions,
yeah.
and it's uh it's a messy game, and I think there's going to be a lot of burnt capital there for sure.
Mm. And I've actually, I mean, I've experienced that firsthand where people have approached us and said, "Hey, let's do a link trade." And I've heard of even
Right.
in the Webflow space, people selling spots on their lists,
Yep.
and doing some things along those lines. And it feels like icky, but I will see a short term spike, and I'm just
Yes.
curious. Like, I wonder if that's going to be something that kind of continues long term, or if those mentions get poisoned in some way, or anyway, just like some of these pitfalls where it's like we've seen it in SEO where people try to game the system and all of a sudden get it's a swing back and it is harsh. on when that happens.
Yeah, and I think like the quality parameter
Mm.
is even if like you can't even if you can't directly tie to revenue or like it's hard to tie to revenue in these days because like
Yeah.
AI direct referred traffic is like a very small piece of what you're actually receiving. You still need to have like a almost like a pre-post type of mindset when you go
Okay.
into a strategic investment. Meaning
Mm.
like you need to baseline something, right? It can be revenue, it can be a different like quality metric.
Yep.
And then when you think about like flipping on a new channel, then you just do that analysis against the baseline. And like that's
Mm.
how you think about like relative incrementality
Hmm.
in a world where like attribution here is very, 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 very messy. Like
Hmm.
market attribution right now is just in an insane place
Yeah.
because of this. Like traffic
Yeah.
source changing.
Yep.
It's I miss the days being like 3 years ago, right? Where it's just
Uh,
very easy to understand where traffic was coming from. UTM was very easy to interpret. You could create like a blind field in a Marketo form and like put
mm,
referring URL into it and very cleanly tie form submissions back to where
mm,
origin was. That game is like totally over, right? I
mm.
should say totally over. Uh, it's 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 changing, right?
It's
And it's
changing. Yeah.
not as reliable as it once was. Which,
Yeah.
like, is one part uncomfortable, um, but one part forces you to focus on metrics that matter, right? And, like, tie things back to revenue. So,
Mm,
this whole notion of, like, total organic sessions or impressions or, like, any type of, like, vanity metric just doesn't really hold up in this world.
mm,
And the other side of that is, like, you're going to launch things that will have positive impact on the business and not attribute to things higher up in the funnel.
mm,
But if you have that like pre-post mindset tied back to revenue, you can make some directional assumptions that lead you to make future investments on this stuff.
mm.
Which like it's a hard thing to tell a CFO or whoever
Yep.
manages your capital to be like, I need this money. I know it's the right thing to do. I know this is the right way to approach it strategically.
Yep.
We're going to produce revenue from it. I can't attribute all that revenue. Like it's really, really, really interesting.
Mm,
It's messy, but it's also just the world we live in. Like myself, I had to unlearn like very clean click paths of like
mm.
put a landing page on
Yep.
market, run paid ads to it. I can track it through to close one. I can optimize those metrics through the funnel. Like it's clean. Now I'm like, hey, if I see directional data that I believe in, that's a sign for me to start to throttle up.
Okay.
Um, which yeah, totally different mindset shift. It was very uncomfortable for me at first
Mm,
because I come from this mindset of like, or it came, right? I had to
yeah.
change my
Okay.
thinking of like, if you cannot measure it, it does not exist, right?
Mm,
That is no longer the case, which is that's bizarre. It's a crazy time.
yeah. I was talking with a customer a week ago, and I was similar type of conversation where I was like, I want to understand how revenue operates.
Sure.
And then I want to think about how do we create programs that could influence revenue. And their question to me was like, okay, well, how do we tie that together? You know,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, is there anything that, because what you've just said is like it's really difficult to tie together. So I guess it's just like we're gonna like feel this out or something, or like how do if
Yeah,
the
yeah,
customer
yeah.
if like someone came to you and your advisor and like, okay, we're looking for X, millions of dollars in revenue that we can see that are happening in these types of channels.
Yeah.
We know that we need to be able to do some of these fundamentals over here.
Yep.
Um, what what general uh, directional pieces should we be paying attention to?
Yeah. There is still going to be channels that you can measure cleanly, right? Like
Okay.
there's still parts of SEO that you can measure cleanly. Paid is something that you can still measure cleanly. Meta and Google still offer like incrementality support that you can like prove incremental value to these.
Oh,
So I think like how I approach this back is if you think about if you think about acquisition as a whole, right? It's a portfolio based approach. You're going to
oh,
have depending on the business, paid ads and maybe events and maybe SEO tests, et cetera. Some are going to be very easy to tie back to revenue. Some are going to be very hard, like AEO, to
yep.
tie back to revenue in like a consistent way.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that like if you can tell the story in a way where you prove the provable channels and
Mhm.
like gain the trust there, then some of the stuff that you need to do on like the AEO side or channels that are harder to attribute, there's already that like fundamental trust.
Mm.
And then if you approach it even like more tactically as, hey, if I'm doing this experiment, I'm going to do like a current baseline of like what's happening today. I'm going to ship this thing, whatever this thing may be, right? And then I'm going to measure, post or during slash post. You can create like some type of like directional data that like signals that it's driving towards revenue, but
Okay.
there might not be that clean click path like a paid program has.
Okay.
I think this
Well,
is making marketing leaders like super uncomfortable right now
mm,
because historically, right, you just like take your marketing budget, you deploy based off of like what you're seeing from an attribution perspective. You'd work with your marketing analytics team. They'd help you like kind of split that budget based off of things that are more clickable.
mm,
Now that's like a piece of that pie or percentage of that pie.
mm.
Uh, so yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Well, I think that actually makes me feel better because because I mean, in some ways, I was like, yeah, that's the gap, right?
Sure.
And I didn't know if there was something that I wasn't looking at, but it's the reality though. And again, if I just look out over our portfolio of customers that we're working with, I mean, we do a lot around like let's focus on the fundamentals. Let's make sure that like all these things are kind of in the best place possible,
Yeah.
and then look at what are some bets that we could put out in market or some areas that we just know almost instinctually from a brand standpoint how we need to be remembered.
Sure. 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 The other thing I'll say is like if I'm working with a SaaS company as an example,
Mm,
if you think about ARR, right? You have your acquisition,
mhm,
right? You have your expansion ARR, meaning like multi-product upsell,
mm,
user expansion, et cetera. And then you have retention. So I'm like, if I'm approaching this
mm,
from a marketing perspective, I just covered kind of like how I think about the acquisition piece being like it's
mm,
this portfolio based approach. But also as I think about expansion, there are so many organizations that are just not maximizing revenue of their
mm.
embedded base, right? So
Yep.
of their current
Yep.
customers. So most companies become multi-product eventually. Then the game becomes like, how do you create really efficient like lifecycle programs
Mm,
or other types of like in-product um, flows or whatever, right? To drive additional revenue from your existing base. And marketing can have a huge, huge, huge influence on this as well. And I think that like a lot of consultants or advisors or agencies will go in and like think about top of funnel. But if you actually like embed yourself in the business and understand like the actual business dynamics, you can also provide a ton of incremental value in that expansion state as well.
mm,
And, like, look, like revenue is I was gonna say revenue is revenue, but that's not right. Like expansion revenue is sometimes even higher quality or usually higher quality than net new revenue coming in if you turn on a new funnel, right? Those
yeah.
customers are pretty sticky. If they turn on additional product, they become stickier.
Mhm,
Uh, so it's a really interesting approach. And then on the retention piece, like it's hard, right? Like I'll never say it's not hard. Like
mm.
typically when a user deems that they no longer want this service or this product, like it's hard for a marketing message to like go back
Yep.
and see that
Yep.
person.
Yep.
There's things you can do, like understand like a collection of signals that would indicate someone's likely to churn. And then you can like use market automation systems to like flag a CSM in real time or
Mm,
whatever it might be to like say like, hey, go save this customer pre-churn. But if I approach a SaaS company, it's like I want to nail acquisition strategy and I want to nail expansion strategy. And
mm,
to do so, I need to deeply understand the dynamics of that business, product roadmap, how multiple products are getting upsold today.
mm.
So I try to approach it more of this like, yes, I guess it sounds cliche, but like it's like a holistic revenue strategy.
Sure. Well, I think just understanding like how is the business working, which is what you're talking about, and
Yeah,
then how is it that brand and marketing can work
sure.
to work within the business.
100%.
Those two areas. And you had talked, about some of this stuff really high level, and then I know you've also been looking at how marketing and messaging can be expanded at the really tactical level, right? At
Yes.
almost like the headline level.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you'd be open to switching gears and sharing a bit around something that you've been building, um, and how that came about, like just what all this is,
Yeah, for sure.
involved.
So in my madness in late nights, I've been building this tool called Provv
Mm.
And I'll actually, yeah, I'll live demo it if,
Yeah. Well, how about this? First, let's give us an overview of
yeah,
why.
yeah,
And
for
what one of the other things that I love, and you had asked, you're like, gosh, I don't know. I mean, like it's a thing that I'm building. Like you've got sort of, you're working with brands and helping to amplify what they're doing and a consultancy, and how does this all fit together? Like, because you mentioned two parts of the pie, but this is really an interesting third part,
yeah,
which is learning by building, and having a micro product here, a
yeah,
micro
yeah,
product today. So, um,
100%. So the idea behind Prov is if you think about different parts of an organization, right? Like engineers, as they're, like deploying code, they'll test it in a sandbox. Like they understand how it's going to do effectively.
mm,
You have finance that models like upside and downside. You have
yep,
sales that reviews deal strategy, but marketing has always just like put messaging or positioning or ads in
mm,
market and then learned after the fact.
mm,
So probably about a year ago, I got really, really, really obsessed with this idea of like, there's so much public data out there across
mm,
G2, across Reddit, across Capterra, across
mm.
community forums. Like I'm naming a few
Sure.
of thousands of sources.
Yeah.
And like, that's really, really, really valuable conversation. And when I started like AEO strategy, I'm like, what if I like built agents to scrape all these sources to understand what buying questions people are asking?
Hmm.
That was the premise of this year ago, right?
Yep.
Maybe a year and a half ago. So I used a tool called Gumloop at the time, like really,
Yep.
really great workflow automation tool.
Yep.
Uh, and I built like all these agents that just scraped all of these things. And this was, I originally built it for Webflow.
Hmm.
And it scraped like all these areas and then told me what competitors' customers were saying, what your customers are saying, what communities are saying, like all this really, really rich real time conversation. So I went on to like use this process over and over again to understand like different advisory clients, just like what
Yep.
customers are saying. But then I was like, you know what, you could actually like take all this really rich data, model it, and create almost these like synthetic personas.
Hmm.
They're trained personas based off of thousands of public data sources.
Mm.
Now I can send my marketing material to, whether it's a video or headline or creative or whatever it is, right? Like quite
Mm.
literally any marketing material. And it'll give you insight on how that buyer is likely to react based off of
Yeah.
all of those thousands of modeled data sources. The cool
Wow.
part is like you could technically just drop a marketing brief into Claude for sure. Like you can do
Yeah.
that. You'll get feedback from a machine.
Yep.
The part about Prov is you're actually getting feedback from modeled human inputs. So it's much more rich on how actual human is going to react to this copy or this video or this
Mm.
creative than if I was just to test it with like a Claude or something like
Sure.
this.
Like instead of just, saying Claude, imagine if you are a X, Y, or Z person, and what would you say? Right. And
Exactly.
and and that will give you something that is directional.
Definitely.
The thing that I think is often a challenge is sort of having a really, because we've all seen like AI go off the rails, or give bad recommendations, or start to agree with you, and things like that. And so it sounds like what you've been building is a way to have a more specific understanding and control over what are the data sources, how
Correct.
are you kind of configuring those, and then on the flip side of that, how can you go through and have headlines, ideas, whatever that you're pushing through and testing.
100%. And I was also trying to think about like how can I make this tool as useful to a marketer as possible? And like
Mm.
there's one part reactive nature being like they developed a campaign,
Yep.
they're, creative marketer or brand marketer or product marketer, they use it for testing, right? And like it helps them optimize and refine. There's also then like the proactive piece that I'm building into it now that we can demo today as well called
Sure.
Plays. And what
Mm.
Plays does is effectively take last week's market chatter, and I'm going to make this so you can adjust it, but today it's
Okay.
just weeks. And it scrapes again all these same sources, so thousands of different data sources, and then gives you a campaign in a box based off of real-time market chatter.
Wow.
So it's quite powerful, meaning
Mm.
like you're executing a campaign same day based off of real-time pain points. So
Mm.
as an example, your competitor could go down or like have a pricing update or whatever it is. Their customers could be pissed. You're picking that up with plays, and then it's giving you a campaign in a box with landing page copy, with creative copy, with email copy.
Hmm.
You go after that real time opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I'm
Man,
just
okay, well, I haven't heard about this, so I think let's take a couple minutes and jump into just a quick overview. I think we
yeah,
probably get um, like a more of a deep dive, but yeah, let's just take a look.
yeah, I'll do it super quick. And again, this is you can see my screen, yeah?
Yep. Yeah, I see it here.
Let me just go to Provv homepage for a minute. I'm doing a live demo in real time for a product that's in beta, so
Hey,
yes, anxiety
I,
about
I
this. We'll get it done.
I think that's the best.
Cool. So this is Provv. This is the homepage. I'll go directly into the actual product itself. I'm going to build an entirely new panel right now.
Okay.
So let's use Webflow, because we're just talking about Webflow. We love Webflow. So I type in the company that I'm trying to test here.
Huh.
Automatically, it pops suggested competitors. You can for sure put whoever you want in here, but I'm just going to put
Okay.
Framer and WordPress. At this point, I click this button, and you can see in real time I'm deploying agents to scrape
Hmm.
thousands and thousands of different data sources.
Hmm.
Of course, that we had. This has not aired on me in like 2 weeks.
Hey, I couldn't even get my microphone to operate a few minutes ago,
Okay.
so
All right. At least like we got this far.
yeah.
And this is the initial output. So it gives you an overview of just data sources collected.
Hmm.
So here you can see G2 reviews, Reddit threads, Capterra reviews, comparison posts, and quite literally hundreds of other sources. And then from there, it automatically picked up persona. So like, as you could see from the past screen, I didn't feed it the persona. This
Hmm.
is who agents think you should sell to, or the agents that
Hmm.
scrape this data think you should sell to based off of the conversations that are being had in the market.
Hmm.
So let's pick Marcus Throne as a lead web developer. We're going to pick Elena Rodriguez. She is a growth lead. We're going to pick Sarah Chen. She's a growth designer. This is cool because like these are all people that Webflow actually targets. Sitting in Webflow, I know this for a fact. And then here, I'm gonna get off my mouse because it's magic mouse. Here's where you can actually test all of your marketing material. So let's go to Google Ad Transparency. Let's take a real Webflow ad. Let's see what one looks good. Let's do Agentic Web Platform. Looks like a paid ad that they are running right now. I'm gonna take a copy of it and go back to Provv. I'm going to drop this directly into Provv, and I'm going to run the panel. So this panel does take probably like 30 to 60 seconds just because like
Hmm.
this is where it's actually doing the analysis. Um, and again, I built this in a way where you can use like a brief you can drop in, you can drop a YouTube video link in, you can drop a homepage link in. Like it's any marketing material.
Hmm.
Cool. So this came back and it shows that 0 are fully convinced on this ad. We do have 4 partially convinced and 0 cold. So like it's not awful, but like there's some things that are throwing off the panel. And then by the actual persona, you can see what actual or just feedback on like what's actually throwing off that
Hmm.
persona. Um, which I think it's quite interesting. Like if you look at Elena, right? If agentic web platform means no bloated code hurting page load times in SEO, then I'll evaluate it. Build optimize implies this possibility. So like she's partially bought into this
Hmm.
with caveats. Um, that's the tool that just like primarily
Incredible.
is testing.
Yeah.
The plays piece that I built is you take what I was just going through, right? You take the same type of scraping. I scrape again thousands of different places, click of a button. It's reading just buyer objections from the week, different spots
Hmm.
of contention, and then it gives you a confidence score on what type of campaign you should run. So let's
Hmm.
check out this one. Unlock designers from Figma to live site instantly. So that's a point of conversation this week.
Hmm.
The market signal is designers want a direct path from prototype to live site. They dislike the current technical hurdles. So then it goes on to give you the move that you should run. It gives you kind of like the proof on where we're actually finding this chatter and what it looks like. And then it ships you the actual deliverable. So this is a long form LinkedIn post. These are headlines that you should test on landing page. This is copy that you should test on this landing page again. This is a actual Reddit comment that you should reply back to a Reddit thread with. This is an outbound email with your subject line and your copy that's totally ready to paste. So quite literally, and then like a launch schedule as well. So quite literally, you have a full campaign based off of what is actively going on in the market right now. The
Wow.
cool part is like if you think about how you would do this 6 months ago, right?
Hmm.
3 months ago, it's like you deploy market research, right? They do an analysis. By the time you get it back, they've burnt a quarter, or you hire like a third party agency to do that
Sure.
research. You send it to the marketer leading the project. They create a brief. They pull together a brand marketer, a copywriter, someone on the growth side. Like they create this campaign together. They build it. They ship it. At that point, you're like a quarter or two out from the actual insight that the campaign was driven from.
Huh.
This is all real time, right? So like you saw this happen in real
Yeah.
time. Like we were able to understand a pain point for a specific persona
Uh-huh.
and then put forward an actual campaign or campaign ideas based off of this. Um, and yeah, like I'm excited on it. I think it's quite fascinating. It's a product that I use personally.
Hmm.
It's still in beta right now, so I'm really trying to make these like behind the scenes, like make this the modeling as rich as possible to make sure that these
Yep.
insights are invaluably helpful.
Hmm.
But I'm probably like a week or so away from actually launching this in beta.
Hmm.
Um, the interesting part too, and this going back to our conversation around like the build versus buy, uh, I did this entirely. Like this is this is no literally not a single person touched this except me.
Wow.
It took a ton of time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's fine. Like that is the world we live in. Is there's no longer this barrier of like I need to rely on a development team or an eng team. It's like you can go from ideation to creation to analysis and optimization yourself, right?
Yeah.
Additionally, I built an MCP as well. So like if you're working in Claude, you can just say, hey, test test Webflow's homepage against, or I'm gonna say using Provv. And with the MCP, instead of this just like returning a Claude answer, this is gonna actually pull the specific panel and then give me feedback embedded in Claude. So you work within the tools that you're actively working on if you don't want to log into the actual platform itself.
Oh man, that's so cool.
This takes a little bit longer just because like it's pulling it, but this will actually say like by persona, their reaction, and then what
Hmm.
you should do based off of it. So
Wow.
it's been, let me stop sharing.
Sure.
It's been an interesting one to build for sure. Like I'm quite bullish on it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah, like I just got so obsessed with this idea of like all of this public data across the web is so valuable.
hmm.
And I think it's being underused today.
Yeah. It's what you've built is incredible. And I've right after this, I've got like two different customers that I want to roll through with this on
Amazing.
Wednesday.
Amazing. If anyone watching wants free access to give me product feedback, shoot me a DM and I'm
Yeah.
happy to grant it.
Yeah, we've got also I see Neil and Alicia in the comments. So if anyone else has comments, as we have another 10 minutes or so, throw them in now. Questions, whatever it might be. So just kind of throw that out there. Um, ha- just real quick, I mean, like, what's the stack that you use to build this? We were just talking about sort of marketing stacks. Like, you obviously probably built this in a bunch of different things, and
Bunch.
obviously have been thinking about it for a while, right? I mean, this is also one of these things where it's not just like, oh, you know,
What's interesting is I haven't been thinking about it for a while. I've been thinking about the idea of just like all of this great public data that you
yeah,
can use to really inform like AEO strategy.
mm,
But I will say it's only been probably a month and a half, 2 months where I was like,
yeah,
oh, I can actually like model a persona off this, then test this. And this is
mm,
really, really cool and helpful to me. And I built it because I needed it, right?
yeah,
Which is cool, like
yeah,
building that from a need. And then I just went ham on it. So tools I use Claude Code. I use Lovable quite a bit.
mm,
I've used even like I was doing like a production video on it where I'm using ElevenLabs and Descript and all these
yep,
different tools. Like it's all AI deployed code, AI deployed agents.
mm,
But backend has been, yeah, been Claude, been Lovable.
amazing. Well, congratulations for what you've been able to build. Because also, I mean, it's one thing to, I think, start to build something, or I think one of the things we're seeing is that that gap from like, oh wow, AI is really amazing, to all the things that you can be doing with AI is, it can be steep.
100%.
And so uh it's cool to see like you make that shift and go like, oh well, now let me actually put on a totally different hat,
Totally.
and think about development, and then creating, like a series of agents that are going to do stuff and build things. So
And to that
really cool.
Yeah, thank you, man. And to that point, like, I've always been a builder in the context of marketing, right?
Yep.
Meaning like
Yep.
market automation systems, ad platforms, like really comfortable there. But when you think about this, like I keep saying this new world, but I'm just
Yep.
gonna keep saying it. Like that project, I had to think to your point about every part of go to market, of
Mhm.
commercialization of it, of pricing and packaging, of development of it, of active user testing of it, of product flows, product design, UI, UX, like you're end to end. You're when I say like ideation through execution,
Mhm.
that encompasses all of those.
Mhm.
So it does make you flex in a way that I don't want that to sound intimidating because I don't think that's like a barrier because anyone can go build sick tools right now. But I
Yeah.
do like it like the more you do it, you build that muscle.
Mhm.
And then yeah, and then it just becomes this game of like building tools that are really helpful for you, whether you're in an agency, whether
Yep.
you're embedded in house, whether you're a solo entrepreneur, whatever that is.
Well, we've got a question here from Neil, and I'm just going to throw it up on the. And I think this is a great one. So I'd love to see what he's asking about. What's your POV on the impact for agencies that have traditionally positioned themselves around labor to do this work,
Yeah,
and what would be your recommendation to them?
yeah, it's a good question. Um, I think that the the Prov shouldn't be used as a replacement for like human creativity. I think that it's a way to get a directional read on
Mhm.
what's going on in the market and then how you can execute against it. So I
Mhm.
think the best usage of a Prov is those who actually like use it as a supplemental tool of
Mhm.
I want deep market research really quickly. And then I want an idea or at least ideas as like thought starters to think about how you actually approach whatever is going on in the market to talk about. I'll also say that like there are nuances with public data as well, right?
Mhm.
So like public data typically only shows up when something's really great or really bad.
Mhm.
Uh, if you're doing like a really, really deep user research on a new market or a new segment or a new product category, whatever it is, I don't think Prov replaces that at all. Right? I still think you need those agencies to do that deep research. What I think Prov does is give a brand marketer or a creative marketer or product marketer, someone who's like tactically building all day.
Yeah.
It's like their automated thought partner.
Mhm.
Again, you could use Claude for it, you could use ChatGPT for it for sure,
Sure.
but then you're just getting feedback from a machine. And the beauty of a Prov is it's taking all of that data and it's creating an artificial human, which sounds inhuman,
Yeah.
but like it's all based off of like real human to human chatter.
Yep.
So its output is more powerful exclusively because of this reason, right?
Well, and something you had mentioned at the start of the demo was this process used to be, maybe a 2-quarter process, right? Or like, you would at best, you'd have to do the research and get the thing, and what I see and the way that I see it working, we're going to start testing this in our agency, um, is how to be able to have something that's directionally interesting faster,
Right,
and then being able to, and with a lot of our work, right, it is all about like, okay, test but verify, right?
right,
So there's a lot of this like, okay, let's get to the 80%, and then now I really need to be able to edit. Something I've talked about previously is the shift from knowledge work, working in the information age, and there's this quote from Frank Zappa, which is, information is not knowledge, knowledge is not wisdom, wisdom is not truth, truth is not beauty, beauty is not love, love is not music, music is the best. And if you grew up, sort of, uh, really into music like I was or whatever, like that quote never really meant anything until most recently. Also that's from Joe's Garage. I don't know if you've listened to Joe's
Yeah.
Garage. Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
just a bunch of weirdos and
yes.
uh like
Style.
definitely like a whole other topic there. But the thing that I've been thinking about and we've been trying to really position ourselves around is like how do we move from you know an information age where we are knowledge workers and
Yep.
our deliverable is a thing that we build,
Yep.
and then moving from knowledge work to what I've been calling wisdom work, which
Sure.
is knowing why to do something, and that our deliverable is focused around like how we should be building or helping a customer build their business, which always should have been the goal. But it's like by the time you just like finished the thing, right? By
Yep.
the time you finish the brief or the research or whatever, you're like, okay, now the moment has passed or it was like so delayed. And it's this interesting time where it's never been easier to, let's just take like building for the web. It has never been easier to build for the web. It has never been harder to build something effective in the web.
100%.
You
And
know, and just like what you were talking about a second ago is like, yeah, we used to have like this really clear sort of drumbeat of like this to this to this to this, and like all of that attribution worked out.
yep.
And now the only thing that we can, if I was to think back to my original question around that gap between understanding how the business works and revenue to all the things we can deploy,
Yep.
the best that we can do is approach these questions with speed. And so
Sure.
that's what I think you've been able to build. And I think, Neil, to your question, I think that's the way that as an agency that we can try to address this within the market is move faster and be able to learn things faster.
Yeah, and I think like velocity is a moat right now. And I have
Mm.
this conversation with CEOs over and over again. There's like everything is changing so quickly.
Yep.
The more that you can ship product or ship go to market or create your identity every 3 to 6 months because you need to. I think that is the moat. But all of that said, like Mason, agree entirely with this is like judgment and creativity not going anywhere at all. Like
Nope.
these tools make it easier to build, but you still need to have that creativity and judgment layer on top of it. And we're even seeing this with like the rise of like the marketing engineering roles.
Mm.
Is like we're seeing companies like Figma, like Ramp, like Stripe invest in this role.
Mm.
And the unique part of this role is definitionally, yes, they are builders, but they're marketers first, right?
Mm.
Their judgment, their creativity, right? Like
Yeah.
that drives what you actually build. But you can't just hire someone who's like deep in systems and expect your go to market to be super, super efficient. You need someone who can truly understand how do you approach a market or how do you approach a new product launch or how do you build acquisition programs or how do you launch a influencer strategy or whatever it might
Mm.
be, right? And then like the tooling becomes the paintbrush that you're using.
Yep.
Um, and it's a fascinating time. Like if you are relentlessly curious and just want to build things, like you can, and that is really, really, really exciting. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think we're coming up on time. So I don't know if there's any other questions. Neil, thank you very much. I fully, and I will also say this is like, it is a wildly disruptive time. And it is not easy to be in the agency space right now. But at the same time, I think like that disruption does create some opportunities. And what I'm hoping is that, you know, there's a lot of incredible groups that have really come up through the Webflow space that are so primed for this turn. Because speaking from experience, like I feel like my mindset as a company, and again, we adopted Webflow in response to this desire to be story first. Like we wanted to shorten that distance between idea and execution. And I think a lot of the people that have grown up within this space really understand that. And so being able to kind of hit above our belt is where we'll start to displace what is like, I don't know, not that I have anything against like the large holding companies, but I think there's a lot of
sure,
static approaches out there that do need to be disrupted.
100%.
So we got another question. This probably we can close out here with this, but I find Claude code great for building, but not super great at UX, especially with products. It still needs that human in the loop to truly understand the problem and the product. So what was your experience just in terms of like creating the UI and you're not a designer, right? And you're not even like you are
Yeah,
a builder, like you've built,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
campaigns and things like, but
Yeah, so I agree with this. I could not agree with this comment more. I had to think so deeply around. I had to like draw on like my product growth experience of like how do you create active users in a
Mm,
product? What would that look like? How would that benefit someone in a brand role or a creative role or a product marketing role?
mm.
So much so where like I'd have these build days where I was building Prov as a different, like I would give myself a persona and then like approach the tool in this way. um, AI cannot do that, or like AI can attempt to do it, but like it's going to
Yep.
do it very, very poorly relative to an actual human interacting with UX of a product,
Mm,
or even like UI of a product. Like I'm not a
yep.
product designer either, and that is very clear. Like that I still need some work on that front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, like that's an area where yeah, like unless I agree, full stop.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. Speaking of marketing engineer, you and I are going to host a panel, and I believe it's August. I don't even think we've put it up on Luma yet, so stay tuned.
Amazing, Mason. Thanks so much for having me on today. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks for everyone who joined in the conversation. Looking forward to continuing to talk about building the next web, and I will see everyone on LinkedIn. All right.
Amazing.
See you.